Testing.
Once a year,
10 o'clock, folks. We have a quorum. I'll call the Electoral Area Service Committee of August the 6th, 2025 to order. Chair acknowledges we're on the traditional territory of the Letchworth people, and we need a motion to adopt the public agenda.
Move agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is carried. No petitions or delegations. Adoption of the previous minutes, please. July 9, 2025.
Move adoption.
Second.
Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Any business arising? No one? No public consideration, notice of motion or chairs reports. So we're on to staff reports. Number 1, Electoral Area C, Official Community Plan Project Update for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
And I believe Meredith will speak to that. I don't see Annie, so.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, so this is the monthly update on the official community plan project for Area C. And since the last report, we have continued with scheduled online community conversations. So that's the community groups, focus conversation. We've conducted additional community consultation via email, telephone, and meetings, received preliminary stakeholder feedback from Island Health, and the community context summary is being prepared to be released if it hasn't been already. Followed up with frustrations regarding participation. So this is an ongoing piece of work that will continue. Coming up next, of course, we will continue the more focus group conversations. That will be an ongoing piece throughout this project. And we're beginning the preparation for the next in-person engagement that'll happen early in the fall. Thank you.
Anything from directors? Director Winnie?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Meredith, for the report. I wanted to ask about the community context summary. I noticed that in this, since the last report, this one, it says at the top of the page that it's been finalized and released, but then on the second page, it says that it has a public release date of August 2025. And I was curious, first of all, if the report comes through the committee or just goes to the board or it just goes on the internet or how that happens.
Thank you through the chair. This will just be published. Yeah.
Okay. So I was looking at the Area C OCP webpage, and it has sort of broken down into phases, phase 1, phase 2. And if you pop open phase 1, that's where you see the community context summary, and then it does say in brackets after that, like, coming soon. But this report really indicates that we're in phase 2, so I was wondering if there's a way of maybe pulling that community context report out of the phase 1 and or highlighting it on the webpage somewhere.
Yes, so currently, as I mentioned, it's the only reason it hasn't been published yet is that we're actually revamping the project website for this project, just to make it a little bit more legible. So it is ready to go, and it will be published and highlighted more effectively, I guess, on the website once that redo is done, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm so happy to hear that. And I was curious if you had made contact, or you or Annie or whomever, with the Quadra Foundation for the list of the 80 community groups on Quadra.
I understand Annie has reached out to them, yes.
Great. And has there been any outreach to the Refuge Cove and Stewart Island communities?
I believe so. Annie not being here would be the best person to answer that directly, but I know that she has reached out to an extensive list of groups.
Okay. I'm more just curious about like the outer community areas than necessarily groups. Stewart
Yes.
Island Community Association would be one of them?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then I was curious if I could hear from staff on if there's going to be an opportunity for the community to have a discussion on things specific, such as agriculture. And it's something that I've been getting asked about because while there isn't a specific group which necessarily represents all of the growers and farmers on the island, so that that group can't be consulted with. It seems like, food security is critically important, and supporting local growers and farmers is also going to be important. So is there a plan that we can dig into those sorts of topics or that topic and others?
Of course. That is what the next phase of engagement looks like. With the first round of engagement, we have gone broadly to the public and to those focus groups in order to identify which areas people do want to have that more in-depth discussion in. That's part of why those two types of engagement happen separately. So the next level of engagement does go into policy direction more specifically within those topic areas. And they are addressed separately or specifically in the plan itself. So yes, if there are specific topic areas that you know people are interested in, please by all means tell us or ask the public to tell us. We have an idea of what those topic areas are, but it's always possible that we've missed something. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to, well, then I'll just mention that agriculture seems to be one that I've heard from just from a few people, and that there isn't that like group to necessarily advocate with you for. And I'm looking forward to a calendar maybe of engagement. Maybe we'll see that next month.
Should there be one? Absolutely. We try not to publish a calendar with dates if they aren't firm, because if
Fair.
changing dates are hard to correct.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything further, directors? Seeing none, on receipt, call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, number 2, beach access project, electoral area C for receipt.
Move receipt of the report.
Second.
As Meredith is the only planning staff here, I imagine it's her.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, so this report is to provide a brief update on the Area C beach access project. This has been a project has been a work in progress for some time. And where we are now is into phase 2. The first phase was sort of the easiest to implement beach access sites, by which I mean putting signs up, maybe being the only thing that needed to happen before they could be safely accessed by the public. Phase 2, the sites need a little bit more development before they could be safely accessed. But where we are with phase 2, we have applied for and received permits from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit for 6 additional beach access points on Quadra Island. We've completed sign installation and minor works for sites at Bold Point and at Ferry Road. Excuse me. We've completed the initial site inspections at sites located off Huntley Road, Hyacinth Bay Road, Radon Road, and Orion Road, which, anticipating your question, Director Mahoney, is an unopened right-of-way across, accessing off of West Road across from Blinken Park. There is no road built there, so there is nothing signed. And so we've determined the necessary development to open those sites. We're currently going through those improvements necessary, documenting the requirements at each site to clarify those works. And that could include things like brush clearing, boardwalk or stair construction, culvert installation or other drainage works, parking management, or other efforts to minimize potential conflicts with neighbors. We're planning for some additional site visits with our contractors and with volunteer groups, such as the Quadra Island Trails Committee, to determine what budget would be required to develop each of those sites. And that's really the foundational work that will let us bring something forward to the financial planning process this fall. Once we've confirmed the budgetary requirements and can have a strategy for which sites could proceed first, that's when it will come back to the board with some proposed options. Thanks.
Directors? Director Whitney?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for telling me where Orion Road was. I had been really curious about that. I'd used our UMap it and couldn't figure that one out. And so I just have a couple of questions, and one of them is, for instance, like the Radon Road access is something that I have heard from community members are really, like those that sort of maybe that neighborhood are quite keen on that one being open. So is there any consideration for reaching out to the neighborhood and asking if they want to, like, I don't know, join a work party, or if they have any equipment that they can provide, or is that sort of outside the scope of what parks would
That's
normally do?
exactly where this project is currently. So Jacob's going through with our contractors, and we do have volunteer groups on Quadra Island that we work with regularly. We would probably exhaust those established volunteer groups first. But we do reach out to neighbors for works like this, because it is, as you say, it's in people's neighborhoods, and we definitely need to work with the adjacent properties on making sure that when we do those developments, that it's not creating new conflicts. So we do reach out to the neighboring properties.
Okay, and I do have one other question, if I may, Chair. And that is regarding, we've finished phase 1 and we're moving on to phase 2, and it sounds like some of the signs are up. I was just wondering, like, there was no map of all of them in the report. Is there a way for the community to learn about the sites that we've already signed, and also maybe like the sites that we're still working on? Is there a web page? I haven't been able to find one. Will there be anything at some point? If you could just provide some feedback on that.
Yes, thank you for the question. And as I mentioned, we're updating, this is another project that doesn't currently have a website. So just as we're updating the OCP project webpage, we are also creating a webpage for this project. So once that happens, we do have, I may have shared it with you already, but there is a public-facing GIS map for this project, but it's not obvious where that is to connect. So that will be updated once we update the project page. And so there will be a map, yes.
And do you anticipate that in the year 2025?
Oh, yes.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Dinesh.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly inspired by this project. I know I think there's six beach access points on Cortez that I think a lot of people aren't really aware of, and I think there are potential for more. So I'm just curious, what would be the steps for Area B to do something similar to this, even, with the priority being identifying the beach access spots that we have through trail markings and some kind of map?
Thank you for the question. Very similar. This project exists on Area B as well. And like on Area C, it's been something that has been in operation for a while, so there isn't a clear project page or something like that. Area B is currently undergoing an active transportation network plan development, so highlighting beach access points that are priorities is something that could come through as part of that project as they're identified. As I've mentioned before, all beach access sites, what they are is Ministry of Transportation right-of-ways that are unopened, so they exist. The question is, some of them are more readily accessible to the public than others. Some require works before they could safely be traversed.
Okay, thank you. So would it be helpful to make a motion to put up some signs and create a map of the ones we already have?
Well, as I mentioned, because this project already exists, a motion isn't necessary, but we can take the direction that, just as we're preparing a project page for Area C, that would be of interest for Area B.
Great, thank you.
Anything further? On receipt, call the question. All those in favor? And that's unanimous, and that is carried. Number 3, service contracts for Blinken Memorial Park and Quadrangle Community Center for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, so this was a report that was deferred at the June meeting, I believe, or the June 4th. And it gave instruction to work with QIRS in terms of the service contract. We have met with the group there, had some great discussion. Honestly, I just haven't had the time to dedicate to implement and work with them on furthering this. And so I would ask that if the board or the committee could refer this back to the October meeting. And I'm confident then at that time we'll bring something more polished and hopefully an agreement that the committee can support.
Director Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Would that be a refer or a defer till October?
I think defer.
That's great. I would like to make that motion to defer this item to the October Electoral Area Services Committee.
Second.
Okay, on the motion to defer, all those in favor? That's unanimous, and that's carried. Moving right along, number 4, Quathiasi Cove Sewer System User Fee Review for receipt.
Move receipt, please.
Second.
And I believe Mr. Chair Sheehan will speak to this.
Thank you, through the chair to the committee. So the Quathiasi Cove Sewer Service was earmarked to have a rate review this year. The comprehensive rate review to see if we should change how the rates are actually applied throughout the service is ongoing. But in order to maintain the standard billing frequency for this service, we are proposing to raise the rates per the 2025-2029 financial plan, which is roughly 14% across all rate categories. That is considering the the operation reduction that resulted from the overhead cost allocation change, which was approximately just under $38,000. Those funds were earmarked to go into reserves, but could potentially be used to modify these rate percentages if it is the will of the committee. I'm happy to answer any questions about the report if there are any.
Director Rooney?
Thank you, Chair. And I thank you for this report, and it does seem like having a comprehensive review of the rates would be beneficial. But I also understand the large, relatively empty bucket, which is the capital reserve, and the real need of working to build that reserve. But there is also the consideration of the affordability crunch, which so many folks are experiencing right now. And I think finding balance between the capital reserve and people's budgets is really important. So I would like to see a decrease to the increase for residential customers. So I will be making that motion following receipt.
Anything further, directors? On receipt, call the question. All those in favor? It's unanimous. That's carried. And Director McWhinney?
Thank you, Chair. I have a slightly modified version of the recommended motion here, that the committee recommend that the draft bylaw attached to the July 26, 2025 report from the Chief Administrative Officer be referred to the board for first 3 readings and adoption, with the bylaw reflecting a change of percentage for residential and residential step customers to a 7% increase. If that makes sense.
Need a seconder if we're going to go with this.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's unanimous and carried. Number 5, Cortez Island Seepage Management Study for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
And I believe Sheena will speak to this as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, through the chair to the directors. So this is the final phase of a 2-phase study that started in 2024, where we initially had Silvis Environmental doing the preliminary work to assess the feasibility of creating a septage management facility on Cortez Island. Per the board's direction, we proceeded to step 2 of that study. Unfortunately, Silvis Environmental no longer had the internal resources to proceed with that work and referred us to another gentleman, Dr. John Paul of Transform Compost Systems, who has quite a bit of compost-related experience. So because we changed consultants, the first step to that phase 2 study was to sort of review and validate the original work that Silvis did, and they actually came up with a couple of different conclusions. They still agree that septage management is feasible. They also agree that it is likely going to be more costly from an operations perspective to run a septage management facility than what is currently done, but the margin of that cost difference has actually increased with this new study. So they identified that it would just overall cost, that the costs that Silvis identified were higher than what the residents are actually paying. And then there was also some comments made when that first report went through that residents might not even be emptying their tanks at the same frequency as what the reports had suggested, which even further increases that cost variance. So that was sort of their first stage, was just sort of validating those assumptions. Some they weren't aligned with, but then there were a couple of things that widen that gap. The second phase was to actually cost out the different systems that had been proposed, validating those systems and costing them out, and then making some recommendations on which system would be viable, as well as including the consideration of marine and RV effluent. So specifically to that, they are not recommending that we incorporate marine and RV effluent, specifically because of the chemicals and additional liquids that are contained within that type of waste. It doesn't compost down the same way, so essentially we would still need to truck those liquids off-site to the Normwood Environmental Center for disposal at the Campbell River Waste Treatment Center. So while we could collect them, essentially we would be collecting them into a silo of sorts and trucking them away anyway. So not a lot of operational cost efficiency there. They looked at 4 different systems and recommended the least complex one, which would have the lowest operating costs. So the operating cost for that system, which again do not include marine and effluent, is approximately $120,000 with a capital cost of around $372. But there are some significant omissions from those cost analysis. One of the biggest ones for capital being land acquisition. A system like this has a lot of requirements is around siting and proper containment of any sort of runoff or the effluent and whatnot. So land acquisition would be a really critical piece to ensuring that we've got a piece of land that could even house this facility. They also recommended that the material probably just be used for garden use and not food use, but that was mainly around general acceptance of using human effluent to grow food in, not so much that the material wouldn't be suitable from it from a pathogen perspective. So this report is very, very technical. There's a lot of information in it. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in it and to be able to explain all these different systems to you, but from a high level, I believe the report captures it. Happy to answer any questions, and if anything is sort of beyond my technical knowledge, I'm certainly able to connect back with the consultant and report back. So at this time, the option is we could continue exploring this, which would likely be starting to look at what sort of land uses we would need from a capacity size and a zoning perspective. The liquids would be treated through a septic system under this model, so that is also a consideration. You need to have the proper infiltration in the lands that you're trying to develop there. So maybe I'll just pause there and see if there are any specific questions.
Director Rubinesh?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Sheena and consultant, for putting this very comprehensive report together. A couple of questions. One is, I know the idea of doing these sort of studies is to really sort of set ourselves up if there's a grant opportunity. And I'm wondering, have we done everything right now to be able to be set up for that in the future, or are there other things that we should do to be prepared?
I would say to be in the best position for a grant opportunity, we would want to have a piece of land and a detailed design ready to put shovels in the ground. So I think if we want to be in that position, then there's a lot more work to do. There's a lot more money involved, and ultimately it comes down to sort of that cost perspective of if we had the grant, would the community still prefer this option if it does cost them more? So also sort of considerations around, I guess, practicality and cost effectiveness for the community as well as to how far we want to take this at this time.
Thank you. And I didn't notice any engagement with Klahoose First Nation. I'm just wondering if that was part of what the consultant did, or if that was considered.
There was no specific engagement with the Klahoose First Nation. No, it was just looking at the number of properties on Cortez, knowing that all of them are on septic and assuming the frequency of maintaining those systems.
Yeah. I think, from my perspective here, it looks like if this isn't really a viable solution right now, unless we figure out a partnership potentially with Klahoose. So I think, once we receive this, I'd like to make a motion that we engage with Klahoose and explore a potential partnership.
Anything further? Seeing none, on receipt, all those in favor? That's unanimous and carried. Anything further? Director Rubinesh?
I'll move that staff engage Klahoose First Nation leadership and explore a potential partnership to pursue this further.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Number 6, Oyster River Bank Inspection Long-Term Management for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
And I believe Sheena will speak to this as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Through the chair to the directors. So capitalizing on a study that planning was doing on floodplain mapping, we were able to get a decent deal to hire the same consultants to assess the riverbank stabilization measures that were put in place starting back in the 70s along the Oyster River, as well as we conducted the annual dike inspection that we need to do every year as part of that. So the work actually took place in August of 2024, but because of some of the analysis and alignment with the other work that planning was doing, the study wasn't available until now. So the dike had no issues for the dike inspection report. We're not really focusing on that here, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. She's pretty new, so we didn't have much work there. The remaining riprap that was put along to reinforce the banks of the Oyster River against some flood incidents that happened decades ago was essentially just riprap that was put in. That hasn't really been looked at, to my knowledge, until this study. So we just wanted to get our eyes on it and assess the integrity of those works. The good news is that it's all looking quite good. There's a couple of small localized areas of rock loss that were of low concern, as well as there's quite a bit of vegetation that has colonized on the riprap. While that's not desirable, removing it at this time causes other issues, especially around riparian area management and some of the benefits that trees and shade along the riverbank can provide. So they're not recommending that we remove any of those large trees, but they are recommending that we try to reduce the occurrence of them in the future. Which resulted in one of their recommendations to put a vegetation management plan in here. As with any infrastructure, it has a lifespan, even if it is just rocks. So they did also put some cost estimates together for the long-term asset renewal of that infrastructure. So that's also contained in here. They also noted that the dike will eventually need to be replaced as well. So they have put together a bit of an asset management plan, a long-term savings plan, so that we've got the money to fund that in about 70 years now when it will need to be renewed. So overall, they've identified just over $20,000 of additional reserve funding that they're recommending that we requisition between the two functions. So backing up a little bit, the riprap is under function 79, which is the Oyster River Bank Protection function. There are 35 properties in that function, so it's a very small pool of residents funding it. Function 296 was created in 2022 to maintain the dike. And that has a much larger service area because it represents everybody's protected by that infrastructure, so essentially the floodplain. We've got different requisition limits on both of those services. For the flood protection, that's the dike, we are already at its maximum requisition. So despite that the consultants are recommending that we collect an additional $12,000 a year, we're unable to increase that requisition without some additional process beyond just a bylaw amendment of 25%. So this gives us an opportunity to take a look at the two functions holistically. They are really serving a similar purpose. And that bank protection function has such a low population feeding into it that staff feel that there may be a benefit to exploring merging those two functions and using the larger service area to fund basically the maintenance of the riverbank and all of the infrastructure along it. So we are recommending that we consider the $8,500 in additional annual requisition for function 79, being bank protection, in the upcoming budget cycle, but that at the same time we also do some analysis and bring forth a further report to investigate the possibility of amalgamating those two functions, which again would have a much larger service area, many more properties paying into it. There's some benefit there to not overburdening the small function, who not having their properties erode has a broader benefit. So yeah, the study came out really well, but it just presented an opportunity for us to maybe manage our two systems more efficiently. So with that, I will put it over to questions.
Right.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question with regards to the park. Was there any, I didn't see any numbers of what it would cost to do some better maintenance on that area?
So the park is actually not covered by all of these functions. They're not members of all those functions. So there were works identified that were needed in the park, such as a large fallen tree that was dealt with last year. Any other improvements to the parks or the parks trail system would be for parks to analyze and capture in their budget. So that was outside the scope of this study.
Follow-up question, please. With regards to further report on the two services, whatever we do, there needs to be some really good communication, because I know that this is a question that I get asked quite a bit, especially with the 35 homeowners. So again, I'm hoping that once this comes back to the board with further reports, that there'll be some good communications out to the residents. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, yeah. So what we're looking to do is really create one larger service area, because the burden financially on the smaller one is pretty intrusive, if you will. We believe there is, and we'll engage municipal affairs with that. Should we be successful, we'll bring a report back. And then I think, not trying to make light of $20,000, but if that $20,000 is spread amongst the larger service area, it doesn't really have material impact on the taxation for that group of people. But if they don't, and we've got that 35 homes and needing that money, I think we're going to have to come up with Plan B, because that's just too much money per home there, so.
Thank you.
Anything further? Yes, Director Mooney?
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious about the trees and the riprap and the management, because I understood that, like, when I see in some places, people actually, like on Quadra, they're putting trees into the creeks, because it creates a scouring effect and it creates deeper pools for fish. So I'm guessing that there's a lot of co-management on a project like this with fisheries people. Is that correct?
From a maintenance perspective, we would potentially need to engage with environmentalists if we wanted to remove all of that vegetation because of the habitat that it does provide. As far as installing the dike, we don't, or riprap, you don't want vegetation to colonize it. So when you go in for the initial installation, you want it to be clean and you want to maintain it that way. As vegetation grows in between the rocks, tree roots expand, and they can actually destabilize the systems. And so you want to avoid that. So typically if you're going to build new infrastructure, those things are competing, vegetation and the infrastructure itself. So because we already have the trees, cutting them off can provide further instability at this point, because if you cut them down, the roots can decay and now you have void. So we've got it to where it is now, so it's recommended that we leave it as is. But for example, the dike, if they're amalgamated, that's a much newer set of infrastructure. It's got some smaller vegetation on it that we have been managing, so we'll be trying to prohibit sort of alders and whatnot from colonizing that infrastructure through ongoing maintenance.
Okay, call question on receipt. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Director Rice?
I'd like to move item B, that the works outlined in the KWL report be considered in the 2026-2030 financial plan, and that the single participant budget discussions.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous, carried.
Further move item C, that the staff report be prepared to evaluate options for potential consolidation of the Bank Protection Function 790 and the Flood Protection Function 296 services into a single service.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor? That's unanimous again, and that's carried. Number 7, Area D Universal Water Meter, Phase 2 budget for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
And Sheena will speak to this as well, Mr. Chair.
Guys must love the sound of my voice. Through the chair to the directors, this report I'm pretty excited about. This project is something that I've been enjoying and I'm quite passionate about. Our contractors have just been flying through the service area. I believe last month when we reported on engineering initiatives, we said that there were about 200 meters that were in the ground. I just got the latest update for their July progress yesterday, and we were over 700 meters in the ground. So we are progressing through the phase 1 portion much faster than we had anticipated, which brought along some urgency around the phase 2 budget. I know that people have been eager for this. And as I spoke last month, we needed some additional data and analysis, and I hope this report gives some light as to what that was before we could bring this budget forward. But we have what we need now, and the contractors are eager to start finding those easy to or hard to find services using ground penetrating radar. So developing this budget, because we are dealing with different scenarios that we can't predict the outcome of, this budget is very much worst case scenario. I think there's opportunity to get the work done less than this, or to include some additional improvements to the system within the budget that we have here, such as in the report I speak to services that have odd alignments or improper access to the connections. So if there is any room in the budget, we do have an opportunity to sort out some of those. So we're looking for $925,000 from the $1 million that is already identified in the capital budget for water system improvements and rehabilitation. So if approved, this is not going to impact the operating budget or the 2026 budget planning process. That money was earmarked to improve the system through gas tax funds several years ago, and we just haven't been able to find a project that fit within that pot of money until now. So it is really, really a nice alignment. And any money that we do not use will just be put back into that sort of capital pot for future projects. So a little bit more detail here. We've got about 260 services that are outside the 261 services outside the phase one contract. And because the contractors have been going through and trying to locate every service as they move through the areas, we've got some data around what the percentage that we expect will be easy to find versus hard to find. And we're anticipating that of those 261, 153 will be easy to find. And the remaining 108 will have to go through a more in-depth, more invasive, more expensive process to actually locate them. So that visual inspection is step one. And as I said, they were essentially doing that as they rolled out phase one. And we were covering those costs through the contingency budget of that phase, but metering those services that they have found is not doable within the phase one budget. So that's been incorporated into the phase two budget. So any ones that they couldn't find through visual inspection, they're going to rent ground penetrating radar, which is what they're hoping to start on as soon as possible. And that essentially shoots radar into the ground, and you can, if there isn't, if proper ground conditions are there and other disturbances, we should be able to find a lot of the connections that way. The next step is light surface excavation with an excavator in the most likely location. So we don't want to rip up anybody's entire front yard, but if we anticipate that they've been following a pattern in a neighborhood, we could carve out, a few meters where we expect it to be. And then failing that, it's a hydrovac that essentially starts on one end of the frontage and just runs along until you encounter the service line. So those steps increased in cost and time, and this budget assumes that all 108 will need to go through all 4 steps, which is statistically unlikely. And then we also added a contingency as well, just because we're delving into the complicated portion of the project. So again, 925,000 is worst case, and it's got a healthy contingency to help us deal with that. So I think we're in a really good position to get most of the system metered well ahead of our anticipated schedule. So,
Mr. Chair, just a question and a comment. The report says 900,000. You just said 925. That's an error up there. It says 90,000 of the 1 million. So is it 900 or 925?
I would prefer 925. I added a little extra contingency on there for myself. If there's objections to that, 900 would not make me cry. But 90 is inadequate, wildly inadequate.
You wrote it, and you wrote 900 on Friday, so just...
Apologies. I guess that I was eager to get this one out. Mine says 900,000.
Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few comments. First of all, I have been hearing good things about this project. I think it is quite amazing that we're 2.5 years in, and not only did we get the funding in record time, but the project is being done in record time. So very impressed with that. Some of the comments that I've heard with regards to phase 2 is that I'm hoping that a little bit more communication will go out to the homes that are affected. Some people received a letter where it just says you're in phase 2 without a whole lot of explanations. And I was queried on that. Also, with regards to some of the meters that can't be found, some of the property owners that have reached out to me claim that they know where it is. So they're wondering why the SRD hasn't contacted them personally. So I don't know if that's helpful. But other than that, I have no problem moving these recommendations. We're quite happy to see this complete.
Perfect. If I may just address some of the points that the director just made. So everybody receiving a meter who's actually getting it, so the people in phase 1, they received a letter 1 week before the meter was going in saying the approximate day and time when their water would be shut off, and then they received a letter the day of with a refinement of that time. So the people in phase 2 receiving the meters will get the same sort of 1 week notice, and that's just needed for scheduling and dealing with the things that come up on a project like this. So the contract does require them to give them that 1 week notice and then the 1 day notice, so that can be expected. We did send out letters to everybody whose water connection we could not find when we started phase 1. So we have attempted to contact those owners. Anybody that you're speaking to giving that feedback, I would love it if you could direct them to me, and I can record that information. So I have had several calls, and then also the contractors are out in the neighborhood. They're getting a lot of people coming up to them and providing them with that type of information or calling in when they receive those letters. So a lot of that information is happening more organically when our outreach was not bearing fruit. Thank you.
Call the question on receipt. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Director Rice?
Like to move option B, that the committee recommend that Phase 2 of the Universal Water Meter Project be funded using, I'm not sure exactly the amount, 925,000 of the 1 million of capital funding identified for the water system replacement and rehabilitation in the 2025-2029 financial plan.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, carried.
Like to move item C, that item C, that the committee recommend that the existing contract with Edgett Excavating Limited be amended to incorporate Phase 2 of the Electoral Area D water meter project.
Second.
All those in favor? And that's unanimous and carried. Number 8, grant opportunity strategic priorities fund Cayuga Community Hall for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion there? I'm in favor of option A, which Director Rice is going to move for me. All those in favor of the receipt? That's carried. Thank you. And Director Rice.
Like to move option A, that the committee recommend an application be submitted to the 2025 Strategic Priority Fund Grant Program to develop detailed design drawings and construction of the Walters Island Community Hall and commit to supporting annual operation costs if the application is successful.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's unanimous and carried. Village Bay Lake payphone service, number 9 for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Anything from staff?
Yeah, if I can, I would speak this, Mr. Chair. So looks like TELUS has no interest in supporting or even providing the regional district with a cost for supporting the Village Bay Lake payphone service. They're pulling out of that, and it doesn't look like continuing on with that is an option at all. Sean has developed an option here for a satellite phone, which I don't think is, it's an option. We provided it. However, I added some correspondence that I thought was fairly relative, is that I experienced only a few weeks ago and I saw was recently, not that I'm trying to promote Rogers, but that Rogers has, they're not, I don't think when I've watched the ads that they've had, and I don't think they're publicly identifying it, but what they've done by what I can figure out is a partnership with Starlink, and they're providing, if you're a Rogers customer, when you're out of cellular access, it will default to just for cellular data to the Starlink system. You're able to make a phone call. So practically speaking, I think folks in these areas, such like Village Bay Lake, if it was me, because you can see the cost of us providing something is fairly significant, would be to explore something like the Rogers plan, as they'll be able to make phone calls. They won't get anything else through the cellular network, but they'll be able to make phone calls where the area is underserved. That might be a legit option for them. I included some correspondence, but I'm sure folks have seen the ads from Rogers out there. And I personally experienced it. We were out in Cayuga a few weeks ago, and it kicked into the cellular network when we were out of range. One of the people I was with is a Rogers customer, and you could make a phone call, which I think that's a really good use of Starlink. You don't get any data or anything, but at least you can make a phone call in remote areas. So TELUS has something similar, but I don't think theirs advanced. Theirs with the satellite call, and I think it's quite pricey. I think, didn't Edith look? It was something like $7 a minute or something crazy. It was pretty expensive. Yeah. Rogers is definitely more advanced, and I think it's included in your plan. So certainly I would recommend that's an option for folks, not just in Village Bay, in these areas where TELUS is removing payphones. I don't know. I added some, I think I added some propaganda from Rogers in there, but again, I can say in a remote area we did it and the phone defaulted to Starlink, and it was quite good.
Who's our carrier for the regional district?
We're TELUS. And again, I think it was you that said, you can see when you're in an unserviced area. I've seen on my phone, it's as though you can hook to satellite. I think those, in emergency, who cares how much it costs? But I think those costs of the calls are really expensive.
The guys I was with the other day were telling me they've said the first 2 years will be free, and then they're going to think we'll charge you.
Right, yeah. Rogers, maybe? I don't know about TELUS. I am going to, or I encourage anyone to experiment if, we're TELUS customers here, and, how good it is and what it costs.
Yeah, it works real good for me.
Have you used the satellite call? Oh, really? Okay, well, look at the bill and see what it is.
When you're standing there, it says turn to your left, turn to your right, and then it says hold that position to find the satellite. There it
Right,
goes.
right, good. And just, might come back and it's like, super expensive, but in an emergency, it's quite valuable. I think the Rogers one, I know they're offering it as part of a package. I'm sure they'll advance that into charging you.
I'm sure the people at Village Bay Lakes are looking at emergency situations anyway, so. probably
But
won't
right
cost.
now, I think during a trial period, like say Village anywhere, I don't think there's any charge via the Starlink system. So it looks like a decent option anyways.
Director Mooney?
Thank you, Chair. And I didn't notice in the report, the piece from, about Rogers and their options. So unless it's the picture that just in the report that says introduction and it talks about the MSAT, mobile satellite radio. I wasn't sure if that was related to the report above, or all the bits that came with the other report as well. So maybe we can check in after the meeting and I can make sure that I have the right information, because it sounds really useful to share with the community as well while they wait for any other solution. And I did want to say thank you for the report. And the report says that TELUS has indicated it is not interested in restoring payphone service after, serving the area for so long. I would have been interested to read their reasoning and have their letter shared publicly, but it wasn't included. And I think that having their response public could also support communication for me when I'm reaching out and talking to BC Parks, because there are many area users in the Village Bay Lake area which recreate within the remote areas of the provincial park. And that payphone has really been a lifeline for emergencies. And I'm just so frustrated and disappointed that TELUS can decide to save a few dollars so that they can cut the safety off of a large and remote and well-used area with no repercussions, while continuing to reap financial benefits through so many other channels, including sales of their other products to so many islanders. And prioritizing corporate profit over community safety is quite a choice that TELUS is making, while turning to our community and asking for our business. I've looked over the previous reports on this topic, and I haven't seen any reference to the potential of any sort of booster of some sort, which maybe is this Rogers piece that you're talking about. And that was the part of the original request from the Village Bay Lakes Recreation Society, was that we could do some research about a booster. So I'm curious if there is no technology which could be installed, which could boost the phone that people already have. And I think that technology seems like it would be a better fit for the public location than a satellite phone.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm not an expert on it, but I think I know enough to be dangerous. The reason I believe Rogers in these areas, and TELUS with satellite, is going with the satellite system is to deliver cellular, you need to own and dedicate spectrum to it. So what I have to imagine, because they're private companies, is either don't have or don't dedicate spectrum to these areas. So if there's no spectrum, there's no cell signal. So, and then you only need three things, right? You need connectivity, you need a tower, and you need spectrum. So without any one of those, a booster isn't going to help at all. So I don't think they have a tower, and I don't know if they have or have bought or dedicated spectrum. So booster isn't going to help. But I think what they have found then, instead of putting that kind of infrastructure in rural areas, is they partner with Starlink, and that gets them the signal. But a booster's not going to help. That doesn't work that way.
Okay. Well, I appreciate understanding that. It's just not in any of the reports, so it's really hard for me to relay that information back to my my constituents. But I will roll the tapes on YouTube and copy down what you said and,
If I can, like, we've all driven, let's say, to Sayward, Gerald especially, and you start leaving Campbell River, and there's just a line where you stop getting signal. It's like that. So, you know, a booster, let's say, I don't know, might give you another 100 meters or something. So if you look at, like, Village Bay, you know, let's say you had a booster, you know, would have to reach out tens of kilometers or something, right? Booster not going to do anything. It just hardline ends. You either have service or you don't. And Village Bay is so far away from, you know, any booster, if you will, that it just wouldn't help. So you're in or you're out, or you're right on a borderline, and a booster will help enhance what you're close to. But if there's nothing, booster's not going to do anything for you. So I do think it's a good alternative. I mean, the timing is good for it. I've used it myself. I'd encourage folks to look at the Rogers plan for that.
okay, well, I appreciate that. And I do just want to say that I think it's pretty wild that we as a local government are discussing recreating or replicating a safety connection, a telephone line, which was removed by a company which purports to specialize in communication, and a phone line which still exists in the location and travels through the location. So I do feel that TELUS has abandoned the community, and I'm really disappointed in that. But as to next steps, I don't think that considering a service to provide a satellite phone is the right answer, and it wasn't really what the community out there was asking for. So I think I'm not interested in pursuing a service. But I did have one more question, and that just was
we
that,
did- and
is
we
it
didn't
something that we
anticipate.
should be like taking this concern to UBCM? Is there a provincial agency that we could highlight this situation that we're experiencing with TELUS?
I think it's worthy. You likely wouldn't be the only one either, is that they're likely removing landline telephone services from a lot of areas within BC, and at UBCM, certainly with citizen services, that would be the ministry to bring it up and have them, you know, try and deal with the larger carriers appropriately. But at least there, I think timing is decent. At least there's now, which there hasn't been for decades, an alternative to that. And I think that is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe I'll remember to add that to meeting requests. And I had one last question to staff, because it seems that we did receive a letter from TELUS, and I believe that the board has lodged a formal complaint to the CRTC regarding removal of payphones. And I was just wondering if the staff had any thoughts on submitting the letter from TELUS as follow-up evidence to support the formal complaint.
I'm not sure if we got email or whether the email correspondence, so we can certainly do that.
Okay, I would like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've installed boosters before, and boosters have very limited functionality. They actually have to point to the cell tower, and their range is rather limited, kilometer at best. So, you know, the satellite technology, I know you're against it, but the satellite technology is the way forward, and that's what's being recognized by Rogers. If you take a look at the new iPhone features now, there's actually an app that'll point you to the satellites where you don't even have to be using a Rogers connection. An iPhone can actually make those satellite connections now. So that is the technology going forward. Why reinvent the wheel when the infrastructure already exists? So hope that helps.
You know, I was out at the junction of the Bembeky and the Salmon the other day, and a lady had a little device about that big. She sat on the stump there, and there's communication. I don't know what it was. Director Vanessa.
Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of added information for Director Mwini. If you have an iPhone 14 with iOS 18 or higher, you can automatically text message through satellite. So that's another solution. You can't make phone calls, but you can text.
That's what mine does, yeah.
Is that an app?
No, it's just part of
That's great. Well, that's really encouraging. And thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm not against satellite, Director Rice, but I just wasn't, this report is looking at the potential of, installing a fixed satellite phone in one location, and it looked like it would be at least $20,000 a year, and I wasn't sure that that was something that that area would be interested in pursuing at this time.
Okay, well, let me call the question on receipt then. All those in favor? That's carried, unanimous, and a motion, or Director Rice?
Just one comment on, I have a satellite phone, and that might be the cheaper option for you. The minutes are pricey, but they last for 6 months. So it's $500 for 200 minutes. Those minutes are good for, like I said, for the 6 months. So $1,000 a year, you could provide a satellite phone that people use. So that, I don't know if that option was looked at.
Have to chain it down.
Yeah, yeah, yes and no. Again, I mean, I personally I think Rogers just rolled it out this month, and I personally used it, and it worked, and like it is decent, and I think Starlink is useful for that because you're not requiring a lot of data. Like you can't search TikTok or anything like that. It's to make phone calls, and it seemed to be quite effective.
Okay, do you have a motion, Director Winnie?
I do. I'm interested in option B, that the committee recommend that further research into the establishment of a service for funding an emergency telephone service for the Village Bay Lakes area of Quadra Island be discontinued for the time being.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's unanimous and carried. Number 10, 2025 UBCM Convention for Benefit Government Staff Meetings for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, as promised, we reached out to directors, and this was more in terms of a meeting with staff, which typically, with provincial staff, not SRD staff, which historically, typically, the directors do on their own, or they can request support from myself to be there as well. So we've bundled these things up, plus a few that we know of and suggested and have outlined for the committee's review, comment, edits, and then once we decide on this, we'll put a package together for submissions for provincial staff meetings at UBCM.
Directors? Seeing none on receipt? Director Nash?
Thank you, Chair. I have one additional make once we've done receive, and I'm just considering whether Director Mooney is okay with this on the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. If I could add in a Cortez Roads element to that. I'm happy to make my own meeting if you feel like that's better for you. I didn't make that request. Oh, okay, the infrastructure and right-of-way. Was that you, Director Rice?
That has a lot to do with Area D.
Yeah. So I guess a question for you, whether I could tag into that meeting or?
You can also make your own meetings.
Yeah.
It's much easier with staff for sure.
Yeah.
If you've got PIN, I would suggest having your own because then you get your own time,
Yeah.
your own
Yeah, okay.
focus on that. And I don't think staff meetings almost ever get denied.
Yeah.
So happy to introduce stuff organically here that
Great.
you want. Just let us know.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion for that once we proceed. Thanks.
Okay. On receipt then? All those in favor? Carried. You didn't have something, Director Winnie?
I did.
Okay, speak up.
Okay, well, I was also curious about that item, the last item on the list of the Ministry of Transportation item. I will say to Director Vanesh that in previous years when I have requested a meeting with the Ministry of Transportation, and so did Director Rice, and we submitted separate requests and we got combined into one meeting, and the meetings with them are 20 minutes instead of 30. So that just to keep that in mind. But I was curious from staff if it seems like this improving within the right-of-way is becoming a challenge. And I was wondering if that chilling effect if there's been any experience with it affecting active transportation paths as well as new or upgraded infrastructure, which I'm assuming are things like water lines.
I mean, a lot of things with Modi are challenging, and Mod are challenging. I guess it depends. You know, one of the things you find, what I find with the ministry is that I think most of their standards and guidelines are meant for urban centers, and lots of rural areas don't have a lot of infrastructure. Their roads or network were organically developed, and they are what they are. And then you slap on these, you know, urban guidelines, and like not just Cortez, but I'll use Cortez. It doesn't fit, right? And then they're not used to getting a lot of requests for services in rural areas, which they are now. And so you kind of got oil and water here in terms of developing a guideline for urban centers, and then you got these rural. So it really depends, but there always seems to be challenges because these just don't overlap onto rural areas. So I think there's just constant challenges, which is a good point for discussion in terms of standards, is they just don't fit, right? Like they don't have traditional road, you know, standards, layouts. They are what they have become in rural areas. And in urban areas, you're told X, Y, and Z. And then so when you try to make changes or amendments, nothing fits, right? And that's where the challenges and lengthy timelines are with the MOT, because you're trying to get constant, everything you do is a variance to what their standards are. And that's the challenge. So whether it's urban transportation or telecoms or, you know, water, whatever it be.
Okay, Director Vinesh, you have a motion?
Yes, please. I move that staff set up a meeting for Director for Cortez Island to meet with Ministry of Transportation and Transit regarding Cortez road conditions and lack of yellow center line.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? And that's unanimous and carried. All right, Director Maloney.
Would I need to make a motion also for the Ministry of Citizens Services regarding, it looks like, I'm just looking at the report, it looks like it's maybe the Division of Connectivity, although that sounds like Wi-Fi.
Citizen services, all things telecoms.
Okay.
So I think your payphone I think it's a citizen services issue.
Okay, well, I would like to add that item to the list if we may. Do I need to make a motion to that effect?
I think we get it. It's for citizen services and rural payphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That doesn't need to be a motion, is what we're saying?
No, I think we have it here.
Okay, Director Vinesh.
Thank you, Chair. A question for the CAO. Just on the rural funding for last mile stuff, we've got that covered through the minister meetings. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're good. All right, moving right along, number 11, request for financial assistance, Cortez Food Bank Association.
There's a motion that, a B from that item that I will move, that the meeting topics for provincial government staff, as outlined in Appendix A of the staff report, be dated July 30th, 2025, be submitted as meeting requests with provincial government MACC staff at the 2025 UBCM convention with the amendments as outlined during this meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous and carried. All right, now number 11, request for financial assistance, Cortez Island Food Bank Association for receipt.
I'll move that the report from the CAO be received.
Second.
All those in favor? Carried, unanimous, and a motion.
Move that the committee recommend that a grant and aid for the Cortez Island Food Bank Association in the amount of $5,000 be approved to assist with operating costs to be paid from the Electoral Area B grant and aid budget.
Second.
Oh,
Discussion, Dr. Vinesh?
Yeah, I just want to bring some context to this request. The Cortez Island Food Bank, like food banks all across Canada, has had a dramatic increase in requests and need, and they've been currently operating out of somebody on the board's basically their garage, and that space is going to be no longer available. So they're looking at renovating some sea cans that are on the community commons property. So this budget will help towards that renovation.
All those in favor?
I haven't made the motion yet.
Oh, you got something else?
But, I did. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous, carried. Bylaws, 618, Area D Fire Protection Service receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Any discussion here? Director Winnie?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question for our corporate officer. The bylaw that was attached to this report at the bottom of the first page, it has 3 X's under service converted, and it just says the fire protection service established by Division XXX of the supplementary letters patent, et cetera, And I was just curious if the X's are placeholders and they will be replaced with the appropriate number, or if they indicate that the information is lost to the sands of time.
Mr. Chairman, neither. That is in fact how that particular letters patent is referenced by the province. It's Roman numerals for 30, basically.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you.
One other thing I could say, Mr. Chairman, is with respect to the to the requisition limit in the report, we have not heard back yet from Municipal Affairs. So that could be something that the committee wishes to dwell on or consider, because right now the bylaw is based on the current maximums that we are anticipating in the 5-year financial plan. If there are other irons in the fire, that could change, and we're suggesting that the committee may not want to put itself in a corner. So the choice would be to either wait until we're back from the ministry or to move ahead as presently constructed.
Director Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Currently, if I'm correct, there is no requisition limit on the fire service. Is that correct? And I think that that's what's created or potentially can create a problem. So I think that that's something that does need to be contemplated, that there is a limit so that if that limit is reached, it comes back to the board. So that would be my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yes, I fully appreciate that. The question is, what should that limit be? And it can either be as currently set out in the financial plan, or if there are other things being considered around how the service could be managed in the future, you may want to consider that as part of the bylaw going forward.
It might be, if I may, Mr. Chair, it might be a little premature on that, as you know, you've explored an independent service out there, which we don't know what the cost would be, or I know Kemp River is putting off the capital works for theirs for a number of years. So I would suggest it's a little early for that, because I don't know if you know what you want to do out there. There's still some options, and we don't know costs, yeah. You do.
On receipt, all those in favor? Unanimous and carried. Director Rice?
I'd like to move item B, that the committee recommend that bylaw number 618 being a bylaw to convert the authority for providing a fire protection service within Electoral Area D be given three readings and adopted by the board.
Second.
Discussion? Director Winnie?
Thank you, Chair. I was just curious from what the corporate officer had said. Does this, I didn't notice, so the bylaw here has a maximum requisition limit of 0.82 per thousand, and is that, so you're saying that that number has not existed before?
I didn't say that, but that
Oh,
is
sorry.
correct.
Okay.
So the function currently does not have a limit, which is because of its age. There was no requirement. Nowadays, all bylaws, all service bylaws, pretty much all of them must have a limit. And so in order to convert, there is a requirement to include a limit. What that limit is the question. It could be as set out currently in the financial plan, which will probably sail through the province without question. If it's something in addition to that, we'd like to hear back from Municipal Affairs, knowing they would like to get rid of all of these old services, old functions, and have them converted. So there is an incentive at this time to look at increasing, if that's the will of the board, to do that. But it's been a big unknown at this point as to where that would end up.
Oh, if it was increased, okay. Because I guess what I'm wondering is, it seems like maybe this would be the opportunity to make the number a little higher without necessarily, as in if you wanted to do it in the future, would you have to go do an AAP?
You would. Now, again, depending, let's say we started our own Area D fire service. You're gonna have to borrow money. You're gonna have to go out to referendum to borrow that. You're likely gonna wanna go out to referendum to get, decide what people want out there. The other thing in the financial plan too, if we peg it to the 5-year financial plan, which Mr. Yates, just told you that municipal affairs wouldn't balk at, when you always look at years 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the financial plan, the numbers jump quite substantially because you can't carry forward surplus. So that gives you a fairly healthy requisition limit built in there without quote unquote raising it, if you will. So I would suggest we do that. That will give us a healthy upper limit, as you say. Knowing that also, again, if Area D started its own fire protection, there's likely going to be some borrowing in there, and you'd have to go out to the public anyway. So I think both paths are covered under this, and I would suggest we look at the 5-year planning, put a requisition limit at that, sail through municipal affairs, have a healthy limit. It just because you have a high requisition limit doesn't mean you have to collect it. Just gives you that ceiling.
Right, okay, I really appreciate that extra context. That helps me. Thank you.
Call the question on the motion. All those in favor? That's unanimous. It's carried. No correspondence. Director's report. Land availability for housing on Quadra. Thank you. Anything further? On receipt. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Carried. Director Winnie.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move that staff prepare a report which identifies potential, attainable, and affordable housing opportunities for Quadra Island on public/crown land and inactive parkland, and next steps if parcels are identified.
Second.
Discussion, anyone? Staff?
Just a question. Would you be interested in us looking at land with dwellings on them as well, or just raw land? Because if the motion or the intent of it included land with a dwelling on it, it could bring you further options if that was of interest to you, or are you just looking at raw land?
I mean, there's, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Like, you mean just like residential properties that already exist?
Yeah.
That may be on the market, sort of thing?
Yeah, or are you just looking at land with just potentially no servicing, no dwelling, you just want land?
Well, I think that this was me really kind of like trying to like tease apart the threads of land on Quadra Island, and I think we first pursued the idea of it's actually on that same map. It's really close by where the school district has first right of refusal on that 5-acre parcel, and I'm not opposed to a piece of property which already has a home or something on it, but I do think that when we're looking to build attainable and affordable housing, it's probably going to be more, like it's going to need like townhouses or something like more compact, and I'm not sure if that fits with the model of like one home on a property, but I'm very open to creative solutions. So if you think that if the motion should be updated, that's fine. I'm open to hearing about that.
No, I think the motion is fine. Just, if you, which I think you just have acknowledged that we can look at, bringing a report with options that include land with dwellings on them. They might not, who knows what's out there, but just more options to bring for your
You may find a
consideration.
parcel of land with just a trailer on it that's you could demolish.
Yeah, like I know Cortez Housing bought a piece of land with multiple dwellings on it, and, there was a business model for just buying that and renting it out and so on and so forth. So just it allows more options. I don't think the motion has to change at all. I think we've cleared up that you'd be open to anything, so that's fine.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had just been scrolling around the BC's map looking to try and find any crown land, because I have had conversations with folks from the province before who have said, well, if you find crown land, just let us know and we'll help you release it for housing. So that's what sort of sparked this.
Got to call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Oh, you got something, Director?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just a comment for Director Mawhinney. One of the things that we're doing in our zoning bylaw review, which is coming to public hearing in September, is creating a new nonprofit zoning that would basically allow the SRD or housing society to buy a piece of land. Let's say you spend $1 million, it's got 2 dwellings on it. It's pretty hard to make 2 dwellings be affordable to pay $1 million mortgage. But if you can fit it within your OCP, that density's allowed in that area, and use a nonprofit zoning area that allows to increase density on that property, adding, let's say another 3 or 4 small homes on it. Suddenly you've got $1 million property with 6 dwelling units paying the mortgage, which allows, makes the financing work. So I guess question to staff is, does Quadra could they amend their zoning to create a nonprofit zone similar to what we're looking at for Cortez?
I mean, sure, we are the land use authority, so if it was the will, for sure. Whether you want to identify those beforehand, I don't know, that could be part of the OCP process, or opportunities reveal themselves. Maybe they need a zoning amendment, maybe they don't. It's hard to know, like, what properties are available or could be available, so I think a little of both, but certainly, we are the land use authority, so we have more options than anyone else. No, but it's a good option. It doesn't inhibit us right now. If we identified something that, needed an amendment, a land use amendment, we're the authority on that.
I really appreciate you sharing that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that zoning. I think that sounds really interesting, and I'm sure there's some folks and organizations on Quadra that will be curious about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest impact of the zoning review that we're looking at as far as creating affordable housing on Cortez, allowing nonprofits to be able to purchase land, add density where it's appropriate as far as the OCP goes, and just change the game as far as financing goes. So instead of having to rely on donations, you can actually finance a piece of property and have the dwellings through rent pay for the mortgage.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think it's a great idea, because when you take the philosophy with developers, what we offer them is, we don't offer them cash, we offer them density, because, they need density to create, the infrastructure they're building. And the same thing with the nonprofits, right? You want to create affordable housing. The more density you can get out of property, the more affordable you can make it. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, on the motion, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That's carried. And motion to terminate.
Move termination.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chair.
You surprised me. I wrote that SPF thing that you were going to vote it down, and the only reason is